Hello everybody, welcome to Crafty Soup. My name is Misty. I am coming off of a very busy March, and so I'm going to share with you the projects that I got done in March. There was a lot of other stuff going on, but this is what my crafty life entailed. So I will start with the few layouts that I did get done, and as you can see, there's lots of piles of other things to talk about. I believe that all of the layouts have a process video up, so I'm not going to go over them in too much detail. This was for my design team post on the scraphappy.org website community, and we were talking about grids, and I was talking specifically about using circular grids, and then on this layout, I kind of pushed that grid to the background, even though it was the foundation to elements like my title, my journaling, and each of my photos is grounded in the corner on this circular grid. So that was that. This one was for the Counterfeit Kit group, and that was one of the challenges for this month. I believe this was the second one of the other challenges from the Counterfeit Kit group about using a movie poster. You know what? Now I'm not sure because I think this was a challenge as well. So at any rate, you can go back and check out the layout process videos of these if you're interested in. And this one is going to move us into the card making realm because that is most of what I did this month. My daughter had a theater production of Matilda, and that was personal life stuff that kept me really busy this month because I volunteer and help out with some of that. But this was a digital version of thank you cards that I made for the helpers involved with the production. And these elements, I believe, are besides the title element, were from a Tracy Reed collection. And if it's still available, I'll link you up to that. And I just made this so that I could cut it apart into card fronts and glue it down. And that made mass producing cards for lots of helpers easy. And I had leftovers. So that was that. In terms of card making, I did design a bonus cut file this month. Normally I offer one free cut file a month, and this one I just had so much fun making, and I was so excited when it worked out without too much fuss the first time around. And the idea here is you cut it out of 12 by 12 paper so that it becomes exactly 8.5 by 11, and then you can stack it up exactly with a sheet of paper, stencil through it, and then add the second layer on top of that and stencil through that. And it makes these lovely Easter egg patterns. Now, I did go a little heavy-handed with my first egg-shaped stencil, which I did in gray, and some of my eggs are a little too gray. But other than that, I really, really liked this. So if you missed this somehow, you can check out my blog and download that if you're interested in making your own layering stencil. This particular cut did take a very long time because it is lots and lots and lots of pieces, but to me, it was worth it in the end, and maybe to you, it would be worth it too. So that leads us into the bulk of the card making I did this month, which is Easter cards. And last year I started a tradition of donating Easter cards to a senior program that one of my friends works at. And so I need at least 35 Easter cards to go to the seniors in that program. And so this was my start of the Easter cards, and I thought I was going to do more of these, but because I participated in the Crop and Create Delivered card making event, I made all of these cards. Most of these cards have an Easter theme to them. And honestly, some of these cards were from another project, so maybe I'll set those ones aside. So these ones we talked about. And then the Crop and Create card making event this year was 4 days. In the past, it's kind of been 2.5, 3-ish days. This year it got bigger, and so there was just a lot of stuff going on, and getting ready for the event took me quite some time because I like to prep my stamps, store them in my storage pouches and then catalog them in my digital catalog system. So all of that, and then cutting all the pieces and parts for the classes as homework, all of that took quite a while. But I love it. You know, I'm not a huge card sender, but I really like learning techniques. And I think cards are very open to learning techniques because they're small canvases. If you don't like it, it's not a lot of waste to throw it away. And if you do like it, you can send it. And it's a great way for you to get some fun and to send some fun off to somebody else. So while scrapbooking is my favorite, card making is a close second. So let's just go through this stuff. Angie Blum designs her own digital files, and so they always include a piece of artwork from her, and she does a very calming coloring tutorial. Mostly she does watercoloring, which I did along here, just pretty much along with her sample, but I made it Easter. So that was one of the kind of bonuses included in the event. I'm adjusting my monitor screen so I can see what I've got going on in the monitor better. We'll talk about those in a minute. And then there's a whole slew of classes by different manufacturers, different teachers going over, you know, some of their favorite products, and brand new to the market products. So some of these supplies I should show you. This is a peek of what is included in these Crop and Create delivered card making supplies. So all of these are products from the teachers and the manufacturers. And then there's bonus embellishments and other products as well. If you don't know about these card events, they are fun. They are not inexpensive, that is for sure. So it might not fit your budget, but if it does fit your budget, it is totally worth it. You get a lot out of these. Okay, so this was from Spellbinders, and we were playing with both floral dies and this kind of background die, which I turned into an Easter shaker card. And unfortunately, I don't think I made the thickness of my shaker big enough because the sequins are catching up on things. And then stamp set, again, I turned it into an Easter card. The Easter stamp set is from Tim Holtz, older Tim Holtz. And then this one I just did mostly in terms of class. These next three are from Tailored Expressions, and she was doing layering stenciling with us and a little bit of die cutting. And of course, again, I turned them into Easter cards. So as we go through this, I'm going to go ahead and pile up my Easter cards over here so that they're separated out for giving away. And each class has at least 3 cards with it, unless it's like a bonus, like the Angie Blum coloring tutorial. So each class has at least 3 cards with it and sometimes additional cards. This was Alta New, where we were, and I don't know if the camera's going to pick this up, but can you see the dimension of this 3D embossing folder? And then we colored and inked it with a layering stencil. And there was also a stamp set included with this kit. So this was all, hopefully I didn't say the wrong thing. This was all Alta New. So we've got, and I just turned these into thank you cards because the other thing I'm starting to work on at this point is end of the year teacher thank yous. So that was that. We had a class by Crafter's Companion and Sarah Davies, and her energy is through the roof. And she was doing watercoloring techniques and these die cutting kind of frames. And so these are the 2 different die cuts that we got in there. And I believe those are going to be available to the public. And then I had a die cut that didn't work, so I foiled it. We had a bonus little tutorial from ThermoWeb on their deco foils and a new glue product to use with their deco foil. So I rescued this damaged die cut and did some foiling with that. And these are Easter, 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 so that's going in that pile. We had a class from LDRS Creative, and they do both card making, stamping products, and scrapbooking products. And I've got one of their scrapbooking paper collections in my counterfeit kit this month. So if you haven't seen my counterfeit kit build or don't know what that is, I'll link you up to that. She was doing kind of collaging stamping, and let's see if I can get this on there. The background is this really subtle jumbo number stamp, and then we were just layering stamp collaging together. And I had a great time with her class. I know I've given 2 of these cards away already, so I only have this one to show, but it was a lot of fun. I really like this a lot. This was one of my favorites. So that is a happy birthday, so I'll set that off. We also had a class from Honeybee, which was these layered owl dies, and I believe these dies are going to be available to the public. I don't think that was an exclusive. I think that's true of Altenew and LDRS as well, Crafter's Companion. So yeah, if I can think of anything that's really, really exclusive, I will try and let you know that. But these little owls were very sweet. And again, I've already put away 2 of these cards for very specific people. So those are already in my card file to give away. And this one is going to be a teacher thank you card because my daughter knows a teacher who is a Harry Potter fan and would love that owl card. This one is from Hero Arts, and Libby Hickson was the teacher. And I have one more of these cards. Maybe it fell off of my display shelf because I cannot find it. But these ones were some little garden critters, and several of her cards had little interactive, or I'd say 2 of the 3 cards had interactive pop-up elements to them. And so we did some interactive cards as well as some coloring and some stenciling, and that was fun. And this one is much more simple, but some simple ideas like cutting strips of paper and layering them up tone on tone is not something I just think of. So sometimes, even though the tip is really small, it can be like, oh, why didn't I think of that? So that was the case with this card. Oh, look, I found what I was talking about. This was the other Hero Arts card that was partially die cut to just create a little opening flap. So there you go. I found it. It was stuck behind something else. That was a big pile. So those are very cute. This class was taught by Scrapbookcom and Laura Graff. And this was a very sweet set of I made them into Easter, strawberries and cherries, but the class focused on the strawberries. So these were die sets and stamp sets of these products, and I turned them all into Easter. And I like the little phrase, have a sweet Easter. Now, these aren't traditional Easter cards, but because they're going to seniors with wide range of ideas about Easter, I was just trying to keep it really general and just, sweet and thinking of you kind of Easter cards. These cards were made by the Stamps of Life, and these are called, they're shaped, there's another name, Fold-its, I think, because they're all shaped cards that create a full A2 size card. So this was the cupcake card. And then for this one, we turned it into, yes, you can open it, but we also turned it into a stand-up card. So that one was really cute. I changed the colors up from this class quite a bit because they were like hot pink. That is not my color of choice. But when I changed up the colors, then they definitely work a lot better for me. And this one is a little shaker, which I didn't let my glue dry enough, so some of my shaker bits are stuck in my glue. That's how that goes. And I really liked this die that she included because it's called a tri-background, and it cuts this layer, and there's a center layer, and then there's a bottom layer. And she has lots of different designs of these tri-backgrounds. And this one was a newer happy birthday one. And I put some glitter on there. I don't know if I can get it to show up at all. There's a little bit of shine. But instead of the middle layer, we added some glitter to that. So that was from the Stamps of Life. These are birthday birthday. I'll just make piles as we go. Let's see. These were Simon Hurley for Ranger, and he's also working with Spellbinders now to make die sets that go with his stamp sets. So the stamp sets are through Ranger, and all of his mediums and inks are through Ranger. So we had this kind of desert scene products, and we used some of his lunar pastes, which have a shine and shimmer to them, to create various techniques. And that was the moon, which I wish I had offset my moon a little bit so it looked more round. Now it just kind of looks like a blob on the card, but that's okay. Not everything works out how you expect it to. So that was that one. I really like this one. We used some of his stamping foam, which is, if you haven't seen it before, it's this foam product that you warm up with a heat tool, and then you press it into something, and it picks up the pattern of what you press it into, and then you can create your own stamps. This pattern was created by little upside down ink cubes that I had tucked all together and then pressed it down into the ink cube. So I'm looking forward to working with that stamp. I haven't done it yet. So that's how we did this background. I pressed that stamping foam into a die, actually. And because when you heat the foam, it resets, you can just use it over and over again for lots of different patterns. This one, I heated the edge of the foam and pressed it onto a spiral binding of a notebook. And it looks kind of like teeth over here, but a little bit farther down, you can kind of see the metal loops of the spiral binding. And I really like the soft color palette of this one. And here was a cactus, and we used his lunar paste again to stamp some flowers. We had, okay, so hugs, cheers, you're the best, hello friend. These are all kind of thinking of you cards, which that's what that pile is. We had a class by Jen Shirkus for Lawn Fawn, and we were glittering all the things. If you know Jen Shirkus at all, she likes to glitter things, and all of the cutesy Lawn Fawn stuff, and stenciling, and happy unicorns and rainbows, which honestly is not my style. But with cards, that's okay because you can give them away. I try to balance what I like versus what recipients could like, and on and on. So anyway, this was Jen Shirkus and Lawn Fawn, and we had fun doing rainbow inking and stenciling, and this one was my favorite from that because I've been wanting a cloud stencil for a long time, and I've just been ignoring it. I'm like, maybe someday. So I got a cloud stencil in this box, and we made beautiful colors with it. So I love rainbow colors, and so these cards were sweet that way. So magical, hello. These are all kind of thinking of you. Gina K did a class for us from Gina K Designs, and this is kind of her typical style with layers of black matting, other layers. We did layered, we did stenciling, die cutting, and then we layered pattern stencils through the floral stencils to get these patterns to the stencils. So we had a polka dot pattern and we had a stripe pattern, which you can see here. I used the stripe as a background, and then we turned the stripe to create a plaid. And again, I made these Easter cards for sending out. And then this one was just more basic with the basic products, but I loved the inking because it makes those flowers just look like they glow. So that was that. This was a class taught by, names. See, I was doing good with names. This was the SET, Megan Andrew. There we go. Megan Andrew works with the SET magazine, who offers all of this stuff. And she used exclusive products created by SET to do these classes. And this class was based on buildable patterns. So we were using these kind of, I don't know, Moroccan tile. There's a name for it. I can't remember what this pattern is called, but these kind of tile type patterns to layer and change up and get different looks out of the same basic set of supplies. And there was a special die included and a very small stamp set to create the greetings, "It's your special day." So that was that class. We had a class taught by Kathy Zilski for Concord and Ninth, and actually this stack over here is more Concord and Ninth that we'll get to. And this was a set of supplies that had a very beachy, vacation-y theme, along with kind of a postage stamp theme. And you can see we used a jumbo kind of postage stamp for creating layers and backgrounds. And while this color palette isn't quite my thing, sometimes I really like to just follow what the teacher does before I mix it up on my own, because that might get me through steps that I may have ignored and not paying attention to and not learned from. So sticking to the teacher's examples is often what I will do, so that I go through all those steps to see if I pick up something. Now, sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. And sometimes the designs are just good, and why mess with a good thing? And so that was that class. Okay. This class was taught by Michelle Curie from Pink and Main. She's the owner of Pink and Main. And she had this really cute, this is like, let me get it into the camera. This is a really cute pop-up envelope die cut card that fits, it's a standard card size, A2 card size, and you create all these pieces and lots of layering and stuff. Again, this class I did mix up because there was a lot of bold pink and the colors just didn't work for me. So I did stick with most of the bold pink here, but I toned it down a little bit with some of my die cut choices. And these ones I'm starting to make Mother's Day cards for my friends who are mothers. So that's what this set is going to go for. And this one, I think one of these cards was supposed to have the stars on it, but I turned it into a card again because my daughter's thank you cards are coming up, and because I thought these were cuter for Mother's Day. So I switched that up a little bit. And I believe her products will be available coming up too. We had a stenciling that we were doing, so striping and grid and hexagons. You can see the hexagon stenciling on there. So, and then the die set with this comes with all of the dies for like all of these pieces. It's really a jam-packed die set. And so again, I mixed up the colors to make it my own and work with that. So that was Pink and Main, and that's a whole nother pile there. And then we had a class from Brutus Monroe, who is taught by, is his name Michael? Ooh, no, his name is Christopher. I've got Brutus Monroe, Christopher Allen. There we go. I had the schedule right there. I want to give credit where credit is due. So Christopher Allen owns Brutus Monroe, and he taught this class. Again, I mixed this one up a little bit because this one was a really bold black and hot pink, and I softened it up a little bit with the blue and kept some of the pink. So this is the main die set that we got in class to create this pop-up card. So we did that. There was also a stencil in the class for these layered flowers and a stamp set. And I changed out the sentiment again because I needed more thank you cards. And I changed out the colors to be a much less bold color palette because I am more about softer colors. Now this one was probably as close as I got to his original design. I did add more glitter because he had this glitter in his design and I had this glitter in my supply. And I'm like, well, if we're using glitter, let's use glitter. Plus I used some foiling on this. Let's see if I can get it to catch. There we go. Catch the light. And that was that thermal web foil that we had gotten the tutorial on. So I added that into his class because if we're gonna take it up to a very bright layer, let's take it up all the way. So I went full on with that one. Oh, and then that was the other card. All right, so just wanted to tell you thanks. So that rounds up what the classes were from SCT. I did play a little bit, just a little bit, yesterday. Yesterday I did these. This I just kind of mixed up a couple of things, and this was a die cut left over from die cutting some letters for the other card. And I just backed it with little strips of leftover pattern paper and did a little bit of the stamping collaging on there. So that was that. And then I had more leftovers that I was trying to do. And I will tell you that yesterday I wanted to throw this in the garbage because I don't really like it. I thought the black would be a nice contrasty pop against some bright, happy colors, but I think there's too much black. I think the balance of the bright poppy colors with the black is off, and that's why I don't like it. Plus, it's leaking glitter, and I had problems gluing it down, so it's kind of crooked, and blah, 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 blah. So this morning I woke up, and I decided not to throw it in the garbage because somebody, you know, I sometimes will donate cards to a neighborhood, like a free cycle kind of group, or, you know, just kids crafting, or places like the Ronald McDonald House. So some of these cards will get donated off to things. And so I decided, instead of throwing it away, somebody else whose style is different than mine. This doesn't make it wrong. It just makes it different than mine. Somebody else whose style is different than mine might appreciate this card. So I am not going to chuck that one in the bin, even though it's not quite my thing. That was not all I did in March. This set of cards, I signed up for the Concord and Ninth in the Classroom Color Edition class. It was a one-day event, which I actually couldn't make because I was at the theater with my daughter. And we had 2 classes. Each class was making 3 sets of cards. Plus, we were talking about Concord and Ninth's brand new color expansion. So they are expanding their ink, paper, enamel dot. Their color line is getting doubled, basically. And so this class was all about giving us a sneak peek of that release, which is happening on the 10th. And I will be first in line to get some of these new colors because they are fantastic. And their color line was kind of small, but I really liked their color palette. We've got some things in the new color line that helps fill out that color palette, like a true blue. Their color palette only had a navy blue and like kind of green blues. So having this true blue, which they call blueberry, in their color palette is really nice. And anyway, I could go on and on. I will show you this little sneaky peek, which this was part of the event, but it wasn't the official classes. This was just something we were doing on our own. And so we were making color swatch books because we got cardstock samples of every single one of the new colors, actually every single one of the colors, period, including all the new colors. So we made color swatch books, and I'm still working on that. And then we had the 2 classes. So this class was taught by Laura Basson. Again, I turned them into Easter cards because that pile needs 35 cards in it. And this is a new die set. I don't know if these particular products from this class are going to be released to the public. They may be exclusives to this class. I'm not sure, but there's some good stuff in here. So if you haven't ever taken a Concord and Ninth class, this was my first specifically Concord and Ninth class versus, you know, what has been taught through other events. And my throat is getting dry. I don't have a sip of water here. So I will be taking more Concord and Ninth classes directly from them because they're just good. They're just really good. So this was really a nice set of supplies. And then I kept going with making more Easter cards with leftover bits of flowers that I had punched out. And I kept going with more Easter cards. And I kept going. and then I kind of crashed and burned. This one was a white leftover from die cutting these frames, and I mounted it on gray, and I thought, oh, this is upside down. And I thought I would like the contrast between the white paper and the gray background, and I didn't. It just felt out of balance. Again, like this one felt out of balance. This one also felt out of balance. So I tried to fix it by inking the edges with colors that I was using inside, and it's better. It still feels, I think it feels a little unfinished, and I think what it needs is something like what I did with this one, where it needs a little bit of something on the outside of the shaker. So I may zhuzh this one up a little bit more and put some things on the outside. Plus my shaker, again, I didn't make it thick enough to fit these chunky kind of beads that I have in there. So I need to get more in the habit of doubling up shaker cards that I make. So that was the Concord and 9th class. I do have, this is a whole bin of supplies that I'm still working on through this class. And as you can see, there's some loveliness in here that will be announced on the 10th. So I'm still working on that one. The other class that I was working on was a stencil class, and I don't have really much to show from that, besides the fact that that inspired me to create my own layered stencil for Easter. I was taking it's called Stencil 2, and it's offered by Online Card Classes, and that is run by Jennifer McGuire and Christina Werner. And so I take most of those classes when I can. The online card classes are all about techniques and using the supplies that you already have. So I took that class and I watched along and took notes on ideas for that one. And it inspired that. It inspired me creating my own stencil. The other class that I still haven't finished, let's see if I can pull it in here. I should have done this earlier. Other class I took was offered by Jen Shirkus, and she was focusing on the new Distress watercolor pencils. So Tim Holtz has Distress crayons on the market already, which I believe have a waxy content to them, so they work slightly differently. These are the Distress watercolor pigments, which I understand is just watercolor pigment in a stick. So we are doing lots of, I haven't finished this class. I'm halfway done with this class. We were doing all kinds of just swatching techniques, a few little tiny background techniques, again, more color swatching and more color swatching. At the same time that I'm doing that class, I am comparing them to the Dina Wakley scribble sticks. I bought this can of watercolor pigments like 2 days before these were released. And I'm just like, oh, come on, people. It's like when you buy a new computer and then they come out with a brand new model of computer. That's what this felt like. So I did bite the bullet and invest in all of the Tim Holtz, even though I was thinking I was starting to invest in these. And I did play with these a little bit. I know I've talked about these on video before, but I can't quite remember. So I am contrasting and comparing these things as we go through this class. I haven't gotten to any of, let me take a step back. This class is all about technique. This class is all about technique. So it's not about really final card projects. And this first part was getting to know your pencils, doing some color swatching, and talking about some very basic techniques. We are going to get to bigger techniques in the second half of this class. So I'm looking forward to tackling that, hopefully, this month. I think I have brought us to the end of what my March looked like. And in case, Let's bring everything out here. That is a lot of stuff, my friends. That is a lot of stuff, and I can't even fit it all on camera. So I am taking a few deep breaths at the end of March. This was all good. Don't get me wrong. This was all really good. But I need to slow down a little bit because I cannot sustain this pace. I have my normal schedule of videos coming to you, both with the Counterfeit Kit group. Later in the month, I will be doing my Scrap Happy post. I'm hoping to do my mixed media groups that I play along with twice a month. I have a very big product review coming. I am going to unbox and review when it comes in. It is a brand new machine on the market. It hasn't even been released to the general public. It is something I got through the home shopping network. So that's enough to say about that. I hope that you shared some joy with me going through these projects because paper makes me happy. Paper and color make me happy. And I'm guessing if you're a subscriber or watching this video, then it makes you happy too. And I hope you enjoyed sharing a little bit of happiness with me today. Thank you very much for watching and being here and spending your time with me. And join me for the rest of April for what I have in store for you. Until next time, have an artful day.